Chag Chanukah Sameach from the city of the Maccabees. Welcome to the Israel Brief with me, Rolene, brought to you by Lay of the Land. And as always, we are bringing you your top stories making headlines from Israel. We do this every Monday to Thursday, so don't forget to check in with us to see what has come hot off the press and on to our news bulletin. And let's start by talking Turkey. And relations between Israel and Turkey have somewhat soured over the last couple of years. We are all familiar with the never-ending war of words in the media between our former Prime Minister and Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. However, in a press conference yesterday, Erdogan stated that he will be focusing on warming ties and improving relations with several countries, and that includes Israel. Now, this follows several incidents which have been handled in quite a diplomatic way and in a change from how they may have been handled in the past. And we talk now about the imprisonment of two Israelis, an Israeli couple actually from here in Modi'in, last month on charges of alleged espionage. The couple were on vacation in Turkey and are alleged to have taken pictures of the presidential palace and were subsequently arrested, where they were imprisoned for 8 days, which is an interesting irony, seeing that we are celebrating Hanukkah for 8 days. But it was the way that Israel handled this, preferring instead of going to the media to handle this quietly with quiet diplomacy. And we know from conversations that President Erdogan expected a public acknowledgement of thanks from Prime Minister Bennett, which he got. The two leaders also spoke telephonically, the first Israeli premier to do this since 2013. And yesterday's admission comes as a welcome news for Israel. But it's another country as well where ties are going from strength to strength. And now we're talking about the United Kingdom. Our Foreign Minister Yair Lapid is in the United Kingdom at the moment. He has met with his counterpart, the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss. The two diplomats penned an op-ed in the Telegraph, which is one of the more preferred dailies in the United Kingdom, speaking about the strong ties between our two countries and that they would be doing everything in their power to prevent a nuclear Iran. Now, it's very interesting for us analysts to look at this because we haven't seen a similar action between our foreign minister here in Israel and any other foreign minister or leader. The two diplomats also signed major agreements in defense, in cybersecurity and technology and other areas, as well as a massive increase in trade. And we look forward to relations with the United Kingdom absolutely going from strength to strength. And this comes just a week after the historic vote in Parliament to proscribe Hamas, that is to declare Hamas a terror organization and illegal under British law. We now go further afield to the United Nations, and yesterday marked the anniversary of the UN vote on Petition. What happened about 75 years ago was that a vote took place in the United Nations to divide what was then British Mandate Palestine between the Jews and the Arabs. Now, incidentally, there were no Palestinians back then because the term Palestinian, as we understand it today, only came about in 1964. However, the Jewish leadership at the time gladly accepted, but the Arab leadership did not, preferring instead to go to war. And since then, we have had 70 plus years of conflict with our neighbors that doesn't seem to be coming to any end soon. But yesterday, the United Nations held a day in solidarity with what is known as the Nakba, the catastrophe of the creation of a Jewish state. Well, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Gilad Erdan, lodged a complaint saying that why are you showing solidarity when it was Arab leaders themselves who refused to accept the land that was allocated to them, preferring instead to declare war on the fledgling Jewish state. and have subsequently refused all other efforts towards peace since then. From the UN, we now go to Malaysia, and it has been noted today that the World Squash Championships, this is the men's championships that were due to be held in Malaysia, have been cancelled. Now, the reason for this is quite simple, but also quite concerning. Malaysia refused to issue visas for the Israeli players, denying them entry into Malaysia. Last week, the Israeli Squash Federation complained to its world body and threatened to take the issue to the World Sports Ombudsman in Switzerland. Well, the World Squash Federation say that they want their games to be open and inclusive of all and won't tolerate this kind of discrimination, and subsequently have cancelled after Malaysia refused to budge. This is a decision that has been welcomed by the Israeli Squash Federation, and it's not the first time that we have seen discrimination against Israel or Israelis in sport. It is important that we keep politics and sport separate. However, this is a concern that we've seen since the Olympics and since other competitions, but we are grateful that world bodies simply expel those that are guilty. And our final story brings us right back to the Israeli capital, to Jerusalem, where last night the Black Eyed Peas rocked the capital. Now, the Black Eyed Peas are no strangers to Israel and have expressed their love for this country and the Jewish people on numerous occasions. Speaking to a press conference before the concert, will.i.am said that when he is in Israel, he's amongst mishpocha. We love that he's using Yiddish, and will.i.am, we're happy to be your mishpacha or your mishpocha anytime you want to. A great time was held by all, or had by all, and will.i.am went on to say that politics does not determine his actions, and while he one day would love to play for the Palestinians, he's a great lover of the Israeli people and the Jewish people, and is absolutely thrilled to be back in Israel, a place he has always loved and always wanted to visit. Well, all we can say is Toda will.i.am, thank you for rocking Israel, and you're welcome back here anytime you want. And we know you'll come back because you have ties to Israeli tech companies, which goes to prove that smart people know where the good investments are. So those are your top stories making headlines today. You can check out our original content on our website at www.layoftheland.online. Craig Snoyman, our resident advocate, asks the question, is the treatment of Miss South Africa and the proposed boycott of her by her government similar to that of Ben and Jerry's? He seems to think so, and you can check out his op-ed there. It's also on our Facebook page at Lottel Site. Don't forget to share some pictures of you lighting your Chanukiot, or if you haven't already, please give us a like, follow, and share our content. We love it when you do that. We are on YouTube. If you're watching us, please consider subscribing by clicking on the red subscribe button. And to answer Rakhadi, who is one of our faithful YouTube viewers, you asked me the question if I could address Avi Meir's tweet about whether or not Israel would be letting in people from North Africa. I have the answer for you. He tweeted out just after we had announced that we were closing off airspace to some parts of Africa. That was before the big announcement that at least for the next 2 weeks, Israel's borders will be closed to all non-Israeli citizens or residents. So thank you, Rakhadi. Keep those comments coming in. And we are also on Twitter. You can find us at Lay of the Land 5. So with the Tuesday edition of the Israel Brief, I'm Rolene Marks, off to light the third candle of Hanukkah. I invite you all to join me, and let's meet again tomorrow for your top stories.